Good morning. And for this time, we will be talking about operations on integers. And let's begin with the addition of integers, or how are we going to add integers. Okay, so before we will proceed to the addition of integers, let us have uh, a familiarization with these following terms. First, you have the absolute value. The purpose of the absolute value class is for you to express all numbers as positive or zero only without any negative signs. For example, with the use of this symbol, read as absolute symbol. Okay, so if you have here, for example, we have 5 or positive 5, so you are going to read this one as absolute value of positive 5. And we have this absolute value of negative 5. Or you will have the absolute value of 0. Or perhaps we have the last one is the absolute value of negative 9, for example. Again, why is it that you need to familiarize with this term and how it is done through example? Because the purpose of this one is to express or rewrite especially negative numbers, negative integers, and rewrite these integers into always positive if it can be rewritten into positive or just simply 0. So where the purpose, again, is to remove negative sign in front of that number or integer. Okay, so if integer is placed inside this symbol, that means you are going to get the absolute value of that number. So the absolute value of positive 5, so although it is already positive, still the absolute value is positive 5. And for the negative 5, the absolute value is positive 5, because again, the purpose of the absolute value is to rewrite or remove negative sign in front of that given integer, especially if it is negative. And if we have 0, the absolute value of 0 is simply 0. And we have negative 9, or the absolute value of negative 9 is positive 9. Okay, so that's it. So this is how absolute value is done by getting the absolute value of that number. And again, you need to familiarize with this one because you will be using this idea when you add integers. Okay, so other than absolute value, you need to familiarize also the what we call like signs. These are integers, okay. These are integers with the same signs. Example, we have negative 5, negative 5, negative 3, negative 1, for example. So these integers are considered like signs because all these 4 integers have the same signs, and that is negative. And you may have 2, positive 2, positive 5, positive 10, and positive 3. Or you may add one more, that's positive 4. So since all these 5 integers have the same signs, positive, then we consider this as like signs. And the other one, the next term will be unlike signs. Especially 2 integers where the signs are not the same. For example, negative 3, and you have positive 5. So these two integers are considered um, unlike signs because their signs are not the same. And you may have one more, for example, you have positive 10 and negative 6, for example. So, positive 10 and negative 6 are also considered unlike signs because their signs are not the same. Okay, so the last one for you to familiarize with is the opposite integers. Okay, so what do you mean by opposite integers? So we can see that integers are opposite. For the two integers, we're talking about especially two integers here. If we talk about opposite integers, these are two integers with the same numbers, but opposite. Okay, so when we talk about opposite integers, so simply all you have to remember is that these are two integers with the same numbers, but opposite in signs. For example, we have negative 3 and positive 3. So the same numbers, but their signs are opposite. So we consider this as opposite integers. Another one, we will have positive 6 and negative 6. So positive 6 and negative 6. Okay, these two integers have the same numbers, but their signs are not the same. So we consider this 6 and negative 6 as opposite integers. So just remember in general that if two numbers are the same but their signs are not the same, so we consider these integers as opposite integers. Okay, so these are the four different terms that you need to familiarize because all of these terms will be used and you will apply these ideas when you add integers. This will help you to understand better how to add integers. Again, the absolute value is to remove especially negative signs in front of that number, considering only that all numbers are either positive or zero. While the like signs, these are integers with the same signs. Like for example, this one. So, as many as you can write integers as long as their signs are the same, so we consider these integers as like signs. And the other one is unlike signs. These are different integers with opposite signs, where signs are not the same. While the opposite integers, these are integers having the same numbers, but their signs are not the same. Okay, so that's it. So I guess you are now ready to proceed to the addition of integers. In operations on integers, okay, in operations on integers, the first thing that we need to practice is how to add integers. There are different rules for you to observe and to follow so that you can understand better how to add integers. And with the help of those absolute value, like signs and unlike signs and opposite integers, those terms will facilitate you easily how to add integers also. Those ideas can be applied or can be used here. Okay, so let's begin with the first one. Addition of like signs. Okay, so under this rule, you can add as many integers as you can provided that their signs are the same. So meaning, there is no limit to how many integers that you will be adding here. What is important is their signs are the same. For example, you have negative 2 plus negative 3 plus negative 5 plus negative 6, for example. So again, as many as you can add integers as long as their signs are the same. And the answer is, you just have, if their signs are the same, under this rule, if signs are the same, you are just going to copy the given sign, the same sign, and add directly all the absolute value of these numbers, that is, for integers, that is 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 5 that is 10, and plus 6 that is 16. As simple as that. This is if all signs are the same. Or you can write that one into vertical arrangement like negative 2, negative 3, negative 5, and negative 6. So you are going to read this one as negative 2 plus negative 3 plus negative 5 plus negative 6. So since all signs are the same, just bring down all the signs and add directly all the numbers. That is 2 plus 3, 5 plus 5, 10 plus 6, that is 16. So your answer is negative 16 when you add negative 2 plus negative 3 plus negative 5 plus negative 6. So this is how you add integers if their signs are the same. Just bring down the common sign. And when you have here, for example, supposedly we only have two integers, or negative 2 plus negative 10. So again, if you are adding like signs, just bring down or copy the given signs and add directly the given, add directly the absolute value of the given integers. That is equal to 12. That is 2 plus 5, 2 plus 10, that is 12. Last one, for the same sign. Supposedly you have, usually when you're dealing with your classroom discussions with your teacher, like for example, you encounter this negative 3 minus 4 minus 5. So sometimes if you don't have this mastery, it will be very confusing. But maybe your teacher will only tell you that if in this case plus, you just have to copy the common sign. That is, bring down the common sign and add directly all the numbers. That is 3 plus 4 plus 5. That is equal to 12. And then you have this question, why is it 12 since it is negative 3 minus 4 minus 5? Okay, so this is the actual process. You can rewrite this into negative 3 and then plus, this is negative 4 and then plus negative 5. So it becomes addition of the same sign. So what will you do is to bring down the common sign, that is negative, and add all the numbers, that is 3 plus 4 plus 5, that is 12. So only that maybe your teacher did not able to rewrite the given into this form so that it can be clearly illustrated to you that the actual operation is plus or addition, although it is minus here. Okay. Supposedly, we will consider the fourth example. We have positive 2 plus positive 6 plus positive 4. So, it is just like for example number 4, it is just like you are in elementary grades. You are adding simple counting numbers. So, since all signs are positive, so just add directly the number, that is 2 plus 6 plus 4, and that is 12. Okay, so that's it. So So that's how you are going to add integers if their signs are the same, or if these integers are considered having like signs. Okay, so let's proceed this time. Okay. Adding, okay. Adding unlike signs. Remember this unlike signs, one of the terms that we discussed earlier, when can we say that these integers are considered unlike or having unlike signs. Again, to recall, these are two integers with opposite signs. Okay, for this rule, when you add unlike signs, this rule is strictly applied and observed when you are only adding two integers. Unlike here in the first rule, the addition of like signs that we can add as many integers as we can to apply the rule, because there is no restriction here. But for you to master it easily, when you practice adding unlike signs, apply the rule using only when you add two integers, so that you can easily see how the rule is being practiced or used here. Example, we have positive 2 plus negative 5, for example. Or in horizontal, that is positive 2 plus negative 5. Sometimes it is clearer to you when the integers are arranged vertically. Okay, so again, for this rule, when you add unlike signs, we apply this rule for you to easily master the process by using only two integers. Okay, so when we add two integers, where these two integers are considered having unlike signs, all you have to do, class, is because of their signs are not the same, you are going to consider the difference between these two integers. So how are you going to get their difference? That is, just cover up negative sign. So in this case, you are using the idea of absolute value. You are thinking, or you are considering that negative 5 is being expressed as positive integer, removing the negative sign here because we use the idea of absolute value. Okay, so how are you going to get the difference? So when you add two unlike signs, the thing that you're going to do is get their difference. How? Just simply cover this one, the negative sign, and ask this question: what number you should add to 2 in order for you to get 5? So the answer is 3, and that 3 will be your partial answer. Then after that, try to compare the two integers here, the absolute value of the two integers. Which absolute value has bigger value? Okay, so you compare 2 and 5, so 5 is the bigger, has a bigger absolute value. So look for its original sign, it is negative, so then you are going to use the negative sign. So therefore, positive 2 plus negative 5, the answer is negative 3. So this is how you perform addition of unlike signs. Or simply, this is negative 3. Another one. Supposedly, using the same integers, but we will reverse, switch the sign. For example, you have negative 2 plus positive 5. Okay. So that you can see the difference of the result. So negative 2 plus positive 5, since you are still adding two integers with unlike signs, so you are going to add this one under this rule again. So you are going to get their difference. That is by covering negative sign here. And then ask what number you should add to 2 for you to get 5. And that number is 3. Okay, and then compare the two integers now. Which one has bigger absolute value? So the absolute value or the bigger absolute value here is 5. So since 5 is positive, so your answer is positive. So therefore, when you add negative 2 plus positive 5, the answer is positive 3. Okay, one last example for this. We may have negative 10 plus positive 11. Okay, so again, remember, we are adding unlike signs here. Two integers where signs are not the same. So again, you have, when you cover up negative, just ask what number you should add to 10 to get 11. So the answer is 1. So this one is considered your difference. And the next thing you're going to do is to determine what is the sign of your answer to complete. So just compare the two integers, two absolute value here. When you cover up negative, so the two absolute values here, the two integers here, where bigger absolute value is 11. So since 11 is positive, so your answer must be positive. So as a result, as a conclusion class, you always use the sign as part of your answer after getting difference. You use the sign you use the signs, the original sign of the given integers that has bigger absolute value. For example, this one, when you cover this one, you are just trying to get the absolute value of 5, and then between the two, since 5 has bigger absolute value, so you use its sign for the sign of your difference so that you can have the final answer, which is negative 3. While in this case, you have negative 2 plus 5, so when you cover this one, this negative, it is just like you are applying the idea of absolute value, removing the negative sign, expressing negative 2 as positive integer. So after that, you get their difference, and that is 3. So try to compare the two for you to decide what is the sign of your difference. So between the two numbers, 5 has bigger absolute value. So since the original sign is positive, so your answer is positive. And for this one, negative 10 plus positive 11. So when you cover this one, so 11 has bigger absolute value. So since it is positive, so that answer, your one is also positive. Supposedly, one more. Okay, one more. You may have negative 9. We have negative 90 plus positive, for example, 24. Okay. Negative 19 plus positive 24. Still, the two integers have unlike signs, so you are going to add this one under this rule, adding unlike signs. So simply, the first step is get their difference. So how? You start from the smaller number, and then you ask what number you should add to 19 for you to get 24. And that number is 5. So that 5 is what we call the difference between 19 and 24. Then to decide what is the sign of your difference, again, cover up negative sign because you are using the idea of absolute value. That means negative 19 has positive 19 as each absolute value. Then compare these two integers. So which one has bigger absolute value? So the answer is 24. Since the original sign is positive, so your answer is positive. Supposedly, we will switch the sign. It is now negative 24 plus positive 19. So the same, you always cover up the negative sign because with the idea of absolute value, you are changing or removing the negative sign. So it is now 24 and 19. So you ask from the smaller, you ask 19, or what number you should add to 19 to get 24. And that number is 5. So 5 is your difference. Then after that, try to keep covering. So compare the two integers now. So which one has bigger absolute value? So obviously 24 has bigger absolute value. And since the original sign of the 24 is negative, so you consider that your answer is negative 5. So that's it. That's how you add integers, two integers with unlike signs. Okay, so there's another rule. The third rule for you to practice, I am just trying to categorize the addition here in terms of the specific rows or group of integers so that you can study directly and specifically when you try to go back and recheck and restudy your knowledge about integers, especially addition of integers. The next is adding opposite integers. Could you still remember the idea of opposite integers? These are two integers having the same number, but their signs are not the same. Example, you have negative 5 and positive 5. So these two integers have the same numbers, but their signs are not the same. So that is why they are considered opposite integers. So how are you going to add that one? For example, negative 5 plus positive 5. Okay. With the idea of unlike sign plus, that if their signs are not the same, you are going to get their difference. The same is applied here. Okay, since their signs are not the same, you have to determine their difference. So if you try to cover negative 5, the given now becomes positive 5, so the same numbers. But if you try to get their difference, you cannot find any difference. So therefore, your answer is 0. As simple as that. So that means, as a conclusion, when you add opposite integers, the result is 0. The sum is 0. So there is no difference that you can get because numbers have the same value when you try to remove negative signs. Another one, you have 10 plus negative 10. So again, just simply answer it directly because you cannot find any difference between 10 and negative 10. Just simply, when you add opposite integers as conclusion, the result, the sum is always 0. As simple and easy as that. Another one, for example, you have negative 4 and positive 4. The answer is simply 0. That is why I am trying to categorize the addition of integers according to their category and classification if these integers are having like signs or opposite integers or the same signs so that you can redirect it easily. The last possible rule that I can include here is when you add 0 and non-zero integers. When you say 0, simply, like for example, you have 0 integer. And when we say non-zero integers, these are integers like either positive integer or negative integers. So what will be the result if these negative integers or positive integers will be added to 0? What will be the result? Like for example, 0 plus positive 5. So in this case, it is just like you were in elementary that any number added to 0, the result is that number itself. So that means 0 plus positive 5 is 5. So, or any number added to 0, the result is that number or this number itself. Another one, you have, for example, 0 plus negative 10. Okay, so negative 10 is non-zero integer and 0 is under here. So when you add non-zero and 0 integers, the result is always the non-zero integer. So you have the result is negative 10 as your sum. So 0 plus negative 10, the sum is negative 10. So that's it. I guess it will be easier for you. That will be easier for you to remember and to practice these rules, opposite integers or adding opposite integers and adding 0 and non-zero integers. Okay, as a final example and concluding part of this discussion, supposedly what will happen since, for example, you have positive 5 plus negative 3 plus negative 6. Okay. What will be the result if you add these three integers? Remember that rules earlier are being introduced to you in each specific group of integers. So what will you do is you combine these integers using the given operations by a pair. For example, it's either you add these two integers first, like for example, we have 5 plus negative 3, and the result, okay, since you are adding two integers with unlike signs, so you are going to get their difference, like for example, 5 plus negative 3. The difference between 5 and negative 3 is 2. And when you cover this one, okay, you see the number that has bigger absolute value is 5. So since sign is positive, so the answer is positive. And then that is positive 2. And then bring down plus, and then bring down negative 6. So that means by pair. And then, okay. Then after that, your answer is 2. And then after that 2 plus bring down negative 6. So what will be the result? So still the two integers are considered unlike signs. So what are you going to do is get their difference now. So between 2 and negative 6, the difference is, when you cover up this one, so just try to ask what number you should add to 4 to get 6. I mean, what number you should add to 2 to get the value of 6. So that number is 4. Okay, by covering this one, like you are changing or removing the negative sign using the idea of absolute value. So compare these two integers now. Which one has bigger absolute value? So obviously 6. So since the original sign is negative, you are going to use the negative sign as the final part of your answer. So therefore, your conclusion will be positive 5 plus negative 3 plus negative 6. The answer is negative 4. Or either you can rewrite that one into vertical. That is 5. That is 5. And then we have plus negative 3 plus negative 6. So by pair means you can add these two first, positive 5 plus negative 3. So since these two integers, okay, are considered having unlike signs, so get their difference, that is 2. Since these two numbers, between these two numbers, 5 has bigger absolute value, its sign is positive, so your answer is positive. And then bring down, that is negative 6. Then it will be positive 2 plus negative 6. So that is still unlike signs. So get their difference, that is between 2 and negative 6, the difference is 4. And then try to compare these two integers. So 6 has bigger absolute value. So since 6, the original sign is negative, so the answer is negative. So just simple as that. Or there's another one. In this case, positive 5 plus negative 3 plus negative 6. Either you can do this way. If you choose to rewrite this one into vertical addition or arrangement, you can apply adding the same signs. First, simply, you can add first negative 3 and negative 6. You apply how to add the same signs. So since signs are the same here, you just have to bring down the common sign and add directly the numbers, that is 9. And bring down, okay, and 9. And bring down 5. So it is now 5 plus negative 9. Okay, so 5 plus negative 9. So, since these two integers, again, are having unlike signs, so just get their difference, that is 4. And then, compare these two numbers, so 9 has bigger absolute value, and since the original sign is negative, bring it down as part of your final answer. Okay, plus I am presenting to you how to rearrange or reorganize the given integers when you add all of them. Whichever is simpler to you, is clearer to you, and for you is easily to do it, then you can use that one. What is important is you can get the final or the actual required answer. So, if you can have, or if you have any questions regarding this lesson, you can ask me, or you can raise your questions, and you can post your questions. It is my duty to respond and to answer all your questions. Okay, try to practice this one and submit this to me. You are going to add these integers completely. Or you can also comment your answer. Okay, so you have 5 given for you to practice and equip yourselves class with this knowledge, because if you can master how to add integers, it will be easier for you uh, to take up or to understand algebraic expressions, because the idea on how to add integers perfectly, all the rules applied here will be used when you add algebraic expressions. Okay, so we will continue next time, and we will be discussing the subtractions of integers as we continue with operations on integers in my next review lesson. Thank you so much and good morning.